Waking up before the sun, you have your motions one by one. Clean out the kapha from your head, accumulated while in bed. Clean the teeth and scrape the tongue, gargle with oil, then I'll be younger. I get tired of the rules.
That wonderful voice was from Jack Stafford, Ayurvedic Troubadour, and I talked to Jack in this episode number 215 about his journey from being a burnt-out businessman in Amsterdam to becoming an Ayurvedic Troubadour. So please stay tuned. Welcome to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. I'm your host, Colette, and I hope to educate and empower you to take charge of your health and well-being, preventing disease in the body and mind so that you can thrive in life. I will be sharing the holistic teachings of Ayurveda, which is the ancient healing tradition from India. Now, if you're new to Ayurveda, I recommend listening to the first couple of episodes where I do an introduction to Ayurveda and the mind-body types. And if you like the content, please be sure to subscribe or follow the podcast so the new episodes will automatically download for you. Also, you may want to check out my private Elements community, which is away from social media. It's a safe space for like-minded people to come together, to connect, to share, to support each other, and to continue the conversation from the podcast episodes. Check out the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, and just click on the community tab. And I hope to connect with you there. Thanks for listening. And now here's a new episode. Hello, and welcome back to the Elements of Ayurveda podcast. Today, I'm very happy to introduce you to Jack Stafford, who is an Ayurvedic practitioner and a troubadour, singing songs about Ayurveda to help spread this ancient wisdom. Jack is an English singer-songwriter on a mission to serve others and help people overcome the materialistic message that's distorting modern society. He joins us from the south of Italy, where he now resides. Jack, welcome to the podcast. It's lovely to have you here.
Hello, Colette. It's lovely to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, it's my pleasure. And Ayurvedic Troubadour, I have so many questions, but I want to go back to the beginning of how this journey started. And from what I understand, Jack, you went from reading a bit of your bio, you went from being a burnt out businessman to becoming a nomadic troubadour. You have to tell us about that journey.
Sure. Well, I was in Amsterdam at the time. I grew up in Amsterdam in my 20s. I say grew up, it isn't that. I was a country boy from England and I moved over to Amsterdam. It was fantastic, big city, bright lights. Mm-hmm. And as, the boy in the candy store, I got a bit burnt out. And I looked around after many years I'll be giving you the short version here.
Right.
After many years of of health problems brought on by lifestyle, which is most illnesses come from lifestyle imbalances. Mm-hmm. I found, just by chance, an Ayurvedic recipe book by a writer called Morningstar.
Ah, yes.
And yeah, it's an old book, and it was fantastic, and it really just got me interested. Some seed must have been there from a past incarnation, and I really followed it, and I got really into it, and yeah, it was fantastic, and really just so logical. It's just so
right.
Balancing. So, because I also tried Chinese medicine, and that was quite difficult because they just give you these. In my experience, they give you these teas or they give you these treatments. They didn't really get you to heal yourself, which I think is the big thing with Ayurveda.
Yeah,
that you have to take charge and not delegate your health to a third party.
Absolutely. And what age were you then, Jack?
Well, I must have been 25 or something like that.
Right.
Yeah,
so at a young age, you started really getting interested in Ayurveda and trying to heal yourself.
Yes, like many people, we become very healthy because we know the dark side. Mm-hmm, I don't know if that's your story as well, but I've known many people.
Yes, that's how a lot of us end up here.
Yes. If we were perfectly healthy and were fine after 10 pints, and we had no health problems, we wouldn't need to bother with things like Ayurveda. But unfortunately, many people do have these problems, but they just ignore them and they're under the surface, and then they get so bad, and then they're only left with the the Western medicine extremes of surgery or extreme intervention or very strong, aggressive medicines.
Right.
So, and Ayurveda is much, we're very fortunate to have come to it earlier in our lives where we don't have these big diseases. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're in Amsterdam, you have this hectic lifestyle, which has caused you to burn out, and then you discover Ayurveda. And so what seeds are planted through this healing yourself with Ayurveda and finding this cookbook?
Well, I was running a fashion business. I had suits with a zip that I started myself, and I had opened a clothes shop for those. I was running a copywriting business, representing other copywriters, and I was writing myself, and I was also a musician and had my own record label.
Oh my goodness.
Doing all these things as well. Yeah. Too much. I'm tired even thinking about it now. So what happened was that I had to go down deeper to cut before I come back. I hadn't hit bottom. So I broke up with my partner at the time, and we went traveling. I went traveling around the world on my own as a nomadic troubadour. I would, like in the old days where you had your lute and you travel from town to town telling stories to the king and in each area, and then entertaining the court. But I was telling stories of my adventures, and I was also singing songs about Ayurveda and places I'd been. So I did this for 2 years, going around the world, and I went around America, Europe. I did about 40 countries in 2 years. It's still in a very manic. It sounds great and interesting, but I cycled around New Zealand, Australia, Asia, Southeast Asia, and I met my partner, who I'm with now, and she brought me back to Italy. And I've been in the south of Italy ever since, but with a few trips to India included. So, because the bouncing ball doesn't stop slowly. So, yeah, then so gradually I came, once I settled down, and it was very discombobulating, all this traveling, all this, it's an extreme version of everyday life. You're having different food every day. You're having different temperatures, different seasons. You're traveling, airplanes, very drying, all very. So, and I was upset that I was in balance. But looking back, it would have been virtually. There's no supplements that you could take to stay in balance with that lifestyle. So I came back to Italy, and then I got more into Ayurveda, and I started going to India for treatments to correct the lifestyle imbalances that I'd done before. And yeah, I got more into it then and started reading more about it. And these trips to India really got me in deeper as well, because, going to the source of the river is much better than even the best written books. So that's how it went, really.
Great. So tell me a little bit more about India and your experience there. So you were back in Italy and then going for treatments in India. Is that correct? You're based in Italy at this stage. Okay.
Yeah. So I obviously went to Kerala. I started with the normal. I went Varkala. I don't know if you've ever been there.
No.
Just outside Trivandrum. It's very touristy, and there's lots of Ayurvedic spas. And I guess this is where you start out. It's a very Ayurveda is a tourist industry there now, and many of the best students from the Ayurvedic universities go there because the Westerners pay the best. And that's doing these panchakarmas. So it wasn't the real deal. It's still not knocking it. Actually, looking back from what I know now, how illness comes from the mind with a lot of people, it's actually going to one of these Ayurvedic spas and having a relaxing time is very good for you. It's I'm not as critical as I once was, because having a really relaxing spa treatment could be more relaxing for your mind. It may be better than if you find the best doctor and get the best medicine, but it's in some stressful back street where you don't have this wonderful swimming pool and massages every day. So.
Yeah, it's true. And as well, I think that you're taking somebody out of their life. So if they have a hectic life in some other country, that you're plucking them out of their life and kind of giving them this cocoon to really feel how their body feels when it's in a calm place. Because a lot of people don't even realize how stressed they are.
Exactly. And it takes a long time for this decompression.
Yeah.
So I went back quite a few times, and I was still looking for the best doctor, the person. I was still delegating my health, even though I'd moved to Ayurveda. I'm still delegating responsibility for my health. So, but I did find a very good doctor, and he was in the family, so he got it from his father and his father's father, and he also studied under a guru, which is, as well as doing the university. So he had a very good lineage, and he was an expert in these marma points. So you could press like acupressure points all over the body, and he could, reverse your blood flow or stop a limb or resurrect you depending on how he felt. So, and he was also made these. So the treatment he gave me was, I was there 2 months in Chennai, and it was this very deep oil treatments with these very pranic oils. And if they put it on your body without any preparation treatment, you would collapse because it was so powerful. Yeah. So, because, anything you put on your skin, like a nicotine patch, this is something they say in Ayurveda, anything you put on your skin, that sinks right in. So read the ingredients on that cream, because pretty soon it'll be in your bloodstream.
Right.
So all these, but it was actually more than that. These oils could pull out toxins from the bone. So he treated cancer patients, all types of illnesses. He also did Siddha medicine, which is it's as old as Ayurveda, or is another branch of medicine where they use metals. Right. So they treat these metals and then use them on the body, and they're, even arsenic, mercury, very powerful medicines, but they have to be prepared in the right way to be safe for consumption. So, and this guy did everything himself. So when you go to one of these other hospitals, the doctor will never do the treatment for you. He won't put on the massages. If you're having a panchakarma, there's always a clinician or somebody do it, because it's very hard on your hands, and it's not comfortable work. It's hard on the back. It's putting oil on the patient for an hour. But he did it all himself, and he also prepared all the medicines himself, because, that was the way he was brought up. So he had some doctors come to study under him, but they didn't last very long, because he made them sweep the floor. They just graduated medical college, and he's making them, because that's the way he grew up. You do these, you work your way up to the table. Sure. So
humility, a very important value.
Yes, yeah. But he did all these treatments himself with his hands in these oils and on my body, and also because that's better, because you can feel the energy flows in the patient. You can feel where the tissue's soft. There's no substitute for it. And you're putting in your energies, you're concentrating. I don't know if he was saying a mantra or doing anything like that, but this is the way that it used to be done in India. So I was very fortunate, and it really, I did a bit of pranayama just to give you an idea of the kind of effect. I did a bit of pranayama before I went, and I was studying a bit of pranayama from some books when I was there, and I was doing practices during those 2 months, and during that time I was able to breathe in for 90 seconds and then breathe out for 90 seconds, just one breath, 3 minutes. So
wow,
yeah. Now, 2 or 3 years later, I can do 30 seconds in, 30 seconds out without these oils, but I can't do it very long. So it's just an idea of the power, the actual prana as a power that goes into the body, because, we are energetic creatures. We are electrical energy beings. And, Western medicine, and also many Ayurveda, they treat us with powders and herbs, and they treat us with material things, but there is the prana that's behind it, and that is even more powerful. So that's something I've really learned to appreciate, having searched for materialistic solution for many years.
Right. And that's the prana, the breath, being totally accessible and free. And one of the fastest and easiest way we have to calm the body and mind. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. No, I do all these pranayama practices now, and holding the breath and holding the breath inside the body, holding the breath outside the body so that the energy has to come into the chakras instead of through the food or the air. And it's opening gradually. I do these practices every morning, and it's gradually evolving me. And I haven't had any spiritual awakenings that I have, seen disembodied spirits or anything like that, or have no superpowers or no cities. But I'm definitely in a better place because of this daily regime, this dinacharya, these daily practices, which are hopefully keeping me full of prana.
Wonderful, wonderful. And how has this experience with Ayurveda, learning Ayurveda, feeling it in your own body by going through your own healing, and these experiences in India, how has it affected your life today?
Oh, well, I'm a different person. Yeah, really. It's such a slow transformation that you wouldn't notice it day to day, but year on year, if I look back at the person I was compared to the person I am now, it's a big difference. Yeah, 100%, big difference.
And how are you taking what you learned in India and through this journey with Ayurveda into your life now? I know you mentioned before we started recording about you have spiritual organizations that you're part of now. So it's part of your lifestyle. Well,
yes, that's true. So just to answer the early part of the question, I did after that, I studied to be a Ayurvedic practitioner. I did an online course, and I don't teach I don't have patients myself. I realized that I wasn't that interested I didn't have the patience to help patients. It takes a lot I really have respect for doctors now when you listen to people come in with the same problems, because once you've learned something, it's difficult to have the empathy for your earlier self to go back. I know this now. So I've taken that Ayurvedic practitioner as a kind of course that everyone should do. It should be taught in primary school. You should know to eat in season. You should know not to eat ice cream in the winter. You should know not to eat chili pepper in the summer. It's just obvious. Yeah. So I did do some Ayurveda. So I was an Ayurvedic Troubadour. I did go around the world. I went for a year. Before COVID, I did these yoga festivals. So I would, so you go into the, yoga festivals. You go into different rooms at different times, and then so everyone else is doing asanas, and I'd do a house concert situation. So I'd get people to sit down. Because I wrote this album of songs based on the Ashtanga Hridayam, the original sutras.
Yeah.
And it's written in order of priority. So Vagbita wrote the most important sutra first, and then so I concentrate on the first chapters, and I just kind of made them rhyme and put a Western melody to them. So I can remember that now. When you ask me what Vata is dry and light, rough to the touch, cold as ice, subtle and clear, can't stop moving around. And I remember that now because of my song that I wrote.
You learned
and lyrics.
I love it.
Yeah, lyrics. I can remember 400 songs, but so I can appreciate how these sutras, these because father to son taught the whole book in a poetic form.
That's right. Yeah.
You would go in the morning, and he would teach you the next line of the sutra if you could recite yesterday's sutra. So he would do that. So you were given all the pieces of the pie, and so you go and see the doctor, and he'll remember the sutra, which is Sanskrit, so it's much more complicated and much more full of meaning. So one word can mean many more things than Western words, and he can remember, so that he remembers the sutra, and then when to prepare the medicine, how the sun should be, what position you should do it, and hundreds of how to prepare the herbs, all based on this small poem for this illness. So I kind of so I did that with my Ayurvedic Troubadour. I went around the world doing these yoga festivals, and I did the promotion, and that was a great experience. But I kind of you might find this, or many listeners have find it in this life, that once you've mastered something, your higher self says, okay, you can do that. I'm not going to get you. You don't need to keep doing this, in a company, you get promoted. No, it's silly to keep somebody who can manage other people on the shop floor. You promote, because if you can do a job, it makes sense that you don't need to do that job. You supervise other people doing the job that you know how to do. So the universe kind of stopped me doing that. My interest in Ayurveda has waned since then, and I moved on to this. So I did the body, and then I did the mind. So after that, I did a lot of Vipassana meditation and Buddhist, because my body was okay now. It got to a stable level. Yeah, it was not causing me these problems, so I could get past that. So then I did the mind, and that's okay now. I'm not gonna tell that it's impressive, but it's not causing me the problems that it used to. So mind check. I'm no Eckhart Tolle, but I've got the monkeys on a fishing line. So
good.
So then I moved. Then the spirit started to come in, and then this was when I was in India, when I had this treatment. I started waking up every day at 3:33 at night. I'd look at the clock and it was 3:33, and then another night I'd get up, go to the toilet, come back, roll over, press the clock. It was 3:33. So this kept happening. So looking back, I think this was my higher self getting in touch, because the nadis were open. The channels of communication were freed up, and so it tells you to look around. If you Google that, it tells you get all these funny YouTube channels, and it tells you to look for synchronicities in your daytime, other synchronicities. And I realized I was staying behind a Kundalini center that had been there for 3 weeks, and I didn't know about it. And someone else mentioned Kundalini, and then the doctor told me about Kundalini, and then told me all these things he'd been doing, because he had in his younger days, he had been not into the dark arts, let's not, but yoga, where you're awakening the spirits and you're trying to gaining more powers. I mean, he was a young man, so I think he did experiment with some tantric practices, which we won't go into, but I didn't know too much about. But anyway, he said read The Serpent Power, which is a book about Kundalini, and it's a very complicated book translated from Sanskrit, so it's very difficult. So I found went back to Mr. YouTube and found another channel that explained it all, and I found this teacher in Miami going through Serpent Power in a very methodical way, because he'd studied it for his copy of the book was there with all these folded pages, and he'd been studying it for 30 years. He started, as I learned later, he started doing mantra and pranayama at 3 years old. He was born into a yogic family in Florida, and so he did years of practices, and he raised Kundalini to I don't know which chakra, but so he was a Western yogi. And his master, he was telling me about, and he told it in these videos, was Dr. George King from England, who was a Western master of yoga in the 50s. So I'm in India, expecting to meet. If you're going to have a spiritual awakening in India, you want someone in a nice robe,
Right.
You want someone like Sadhguru. But I'm learning from a guy in Florida about this Yorkshireman who was supposed to be the greatest master of yoga since Jesus. So
wow, from your home country.
Yeah, so that was strange.
Yeah.
So go on, ask me a question.
Yeah, I just want a thought on what you were saying there. I think when we're out of balance in our body, it's so important to heal ourselves physically. You were talking about that journey you went through, the body, the mind, the spirit, because when we're out of balance physically, however that's manifesting in our body, it's going to cause this drain of energy. So we don't have the energy, the awareness, the capacity to look at the bigger picture. Like you were saying, you were in India, there was a Kundalini school right beside you, but you hadn't seen it because you were so drained by that physical ailments that were going on. So it is this real journey of going first for the body and getting the body settled, so then that you can now, once the body is in, the doshas are aligned and balanced, that the mind gets some clarity. And then it just starts on this journey of opening up the awareness and being able to zoom out and zoom out and zoom out.
Exactly. It goes back to what I said about not having the patience for the patients.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, I had a dream last night. I can't remember the whole thing, but I think I was in some kind of dormitory and I was going around. I had some keys to my room and I didn't know which room was my room. So I went around trying all the rooms, putting my key in every door, and finally found my room. That's just an example of how many times in your dreams have you been doing things that if you were conscious, you would not. That's something a drunk man would do, or some kind of idiot, or some 4-year-old child, I know that I have to go and ask reception, so this is this level of consciousness. And you see people, you meet people, you go around their house and it's filthy, for example. So, or they're drunk, or they're drinking in the daytime, for example. I mean, just look around your friends and your family and people you've met. Think of examples of when the consciousness has been low, the base mind has been running the show, and you're at a level of stupidity that you can see. But there are also people who come around your house and would think the same of you. I think I heard a quote from Saint-Germain, who is an ascended master, that he knows people as far above him as he is as far above as an ant. So,
wow.
Yeah,
and that's it. Be careful who you allow into your home.
Yeah, right? only ascended masters.
Yes. And so, did you go on to study Kundalini, Jack?
Well, yeah. I mean, it's a very dangerous science, so I wouldn't recommend you get into it. It's the motto of the Etheric Society, which is the organization that Dr. King started, is service is the jewel in the rock of attainment. So karma yoga is the yoga of the age, service to others, not these Kundalini. I mean, Dr. King, he did 8 to 10 hours of yoga in the 1950s for 10 years to raise Kundalini by force. He said, it has to come now. It will come now. And this is the same thing Jesus did. He studied in Tibet in his early years, and then, did 40 days and 40 nights in the desert. And he did a type of Tumo breathing, which is a Tibetan breathing practice, which will raise Kundalini. But you have to be able to concentrate on a leaf for 8 hours, or a fish scale for 10 hours without any other thought entering your mind. Because if you raise Kundalini, you can't put it back again.
Yeah.
You can be a cripple for life. Right. You can, and the next one, or you can die. It's very, very dangerous. So service to others is the way to live a life in service to others is a way to naturally raise Kundalini. So that's
beautiful.
So I'm not in. Yeah, but I do that. You're still supposed to do the pranayama, prayer, mantra, because these practices help you to be of better service to other people. But you shouldn't, if your neighbor needs help with cutting the grass, you shouldn't say, I have to do my hour's meditation. You just do that stuff early in the morning or late at night, and go out and be of service.
I love that. That's a beautiful thing, to be of service. And especially now in our world today, where we've lost our way in so many places in our society and the way we're treating each other, and you said that in your bio, that you're on a mission to serve others and help people overcome the materialistic message that's distorting our modern society. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? And
Sure.
This being of service in the world?
Yeah, I mean, no one on their deathbed ever says, I wish I'd had a better car, or I wish I'd taken that job promotion or done this. It's always about other people and, love and service to others. So that should be your goal in every email you open, with every conversation you have. How can I be of service? And I often forget. It's very difficult to keep remembering all the time, but it makes life so much easier as well. I mean, it's so much more fulfilling as well to be of service to others.
Yeah, so rewarding. And I feel we feel alive when we're helping others.
Yeah, there's a tangible result because I know from experience that when I've tried to satisfy my desires by fulfilling the desire, that's like if I throw another can of petrol on the fire, this one's going to put the fire out. So it never works, but it's the opposite. You do the exact same task with a different motive. It's completely karmically different and transformative and fulfilling. You can two people do exactly the same thing with a different motive, and it's not, if it's unselfish, then yeah, it's the best way to do it, to be in every moment of every day. Absolutely.
Yes. May that spread throughout our world now. and that's definitely what we need, especially now, as you see, Jack, we're in the middle of, holiday season now. We just had Black Friday. You're in the south of Italy. I'm in the south of France. We see that has infiltrated our society here. We have Cyber Monday. So it's this consumerism is still there. Unfortunately, the COVID pandemic hasn't really thought of us a whole lot. Or I think a lot of people have reflected, but we have a long way to go. But I also do feel positive that a change is coming, because we see the general public sees that they're unsatisfied with the way the world is now, and it's not a benefit to everybody.
100%. Yeah. You just get these lessons and they keep repeating unless you learn the lesson. So that's something that I've really learned. Also, not that I'm above it. My girlfriend's on Amazon at the moment buying Christmas presents. So
yeah, but I think we have more awareness about, more conscious about where we're, spending our money, how often we're doing it. I think we have more consciousness around it. And as conscious consumers, we make wiser choices. Sometimes it's not possible to avoid these big giants like Amazon, but we're more conscious about how we're doing that.
Yeah. And it's really you could watch a whole Netflix series on your own at home, and it's selfish. But if you watch that whole Netflix series, but you're doing it in an old people's home, or with an old lady who's on her own just to keep her company, you're doing exactly the same thing watching that whole series. But it's a wonderful thing. So again, it's just that motive.
Yeah. Treat others as you would like to be treated, right? The golden rule.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm going to interrupt my conversation here with Jack just to let you know, if you're looking for support on your healing journey with Ayurveda, that the upcoming group Discounted Cleanse starts January 21st, 2022. This cleanse comes with a 90-minute one-to-one online consult with me so that I can tailor the recipes, the yoga, the meditation, the pranayama, the self-care to you and your lifestyle, so you can have a really individualized cleanse. And we do it in a group format to support each other, to hold each other accountable. And I'm there all along the way to support you. So check out the link in the show notes or visit my website, elementshealingandwellbeing.com, for that group Discounted Cleanse starting January 21st. If that date doesn't work for you, you can do a private cleanse and choose your own dates. And I'll also put that link in the show notes. Okay, let's get back to my conversation with Jack. And so, Jack, your journey is just so interesting. And so you went from this journey, we started out burnt out in Amsterdam. You went through healing the body, the physical body. Then you could open up to your mental health and starting healing the mind. And then that led to this opening of the spirit and this whole spiritual journey. And of course, music was there all along the way. And I feel like now you've brought all these skill sets together. You found out where your energy is served best. You knew that, well, not as a practitioner, it's not my skill set, but I'm going to bring this music and all that I've learned together in this really unique way. And you brought it together in your podcast, which is called Pod Songs Podcast, and where you're writing really thought-provoking lyrics. So please tell us about that journey of meshing all your skill sets together.
Oh, sure. Well, I started out, as I said, with with Ayurveda. So I did an album of Ayurvedic songs. And then after I finished touring these yoga centers, and then I did the Vipassana meditation retreats, 10 days in silence.
Yeah.
Have you ever done one?
No, I haven't. I came very close, but it never worked out. How was that experience?
Oh, it's tough, because you're sitting in silence. You're not allowed to talk, but the little guy inside, the monkey mind, he doesn't get the message, and he keeps the commentary going. Yeah, and that's the worst part. So
yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. Well, what a great experience. I'm sure.
I did it a few times, but the best thing is that if you've done it once, or I think twice, you can go back to serve. So you can be one of the servers, and that's a much better experience, because you're allowed to talk. You're in the kitchens. You're cooking the food, and you also get to do 5 or 6 hours meditation a day. So
great.
You've got that. Yeah. So I would rather do it every time, because when you've got something to do for those 10 days and you get to serve, and I really felt the love flowing up then. And because when you're just sitting on the mat, it's not the most pleasant experience. I mean, some people
in it. It's just you and your thoughts.
I mean, you hear afterwards, the 10 days, you go and discuss it with all the people who've been there, and they say, other people are telling you these sickening stories about how they were having light, felt like they were under rain, and there were colors, and they were floating, and it just makes you sick, people like that, So,
and you're there with some thoughts that you never thought were possible.
Just the pain as well, because what you don't realize right now is that your shoulders are 2 inches too high. And if you just put your awareness into your shoulders, they just drop. And that's the same with a myriad of muscles throughout your body. So, and if you just drop your shoulders right now and let them go, they start to lengthen, the ligaments and the muscles. So on a purely physical level, they'll go back to their original shape if you sit there for 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, and you'll come out with the perfect posture. But
beautiful.
That's painful, because they've got to stretch.
Yeah.
You're sitting in Padmasana, looking all impressive, but you haven't been doing it your whole life. And so the ligaments are not the right length, but they will be so they're tugging. So the last hour of the last 10 minutes of after 50 minutes of sitting like that, you're in agony. And don't go. But it did help me, and I wouldn't do it again, because if you've got 10 days, you should go and work in a homeless shelter or something like that. And that would be,
there you go. Yeah, absolutely. Good point. Okay, sorry, I interrupted your story. So you were talking about you went in the Vipassana yoga retreat, or Vipassana retreat, excuse me.
Yeah, and I wrote an album of songs about that, as you do, sitting on the mat, think of lyrics as well. And so I wrote songs like Background Worry, Going On, All or Always Craving, Fears or Aversions. Another song, Master of Your Mind. Are you the master of your mind? Can you breathe and only breathe? So all these, I wrote an album of songs about the mind. And then I was promoting that album. And along came this COVID pandemic. I don't know if you've heard about this.
Just, briefly.
So apparently it's going around. And so I couldn't tour this album. So I had to, and I was using podcasts as a way to promote it because I'm in the south of Italy. I'm not in a New York or London or anywhere like that. So I did all these podcasts speaking to people like yourself. I can ramble on at full speed about myself for an hour, and, my favorite subject. And so I really enjoyed that. And I thought, I'm enjoying this. I can do this. I'm reasonably coherent. I'm also a good listener. I know I'm talking about myself now, but I honestly could be a good interviewer as well. So, and I did that. So I said, I want to start a podcast, and, but I need to have an idea, because, you need a theme. And, I didn't, what is the red line through my life? What do I do? And, after, going into the silence, after much meditation, I should also just add that my motive was to promote the Ethereal Society, this organization, because many times before I just released an album, I'd release music and it's just to the sound of one hand clapping. And I've been okay with that, because I do it because I love making the music. I do it
Right.
because it's something I would do even if you didn't pay me and I had to pay to do it, which is really how my music works as well, because there's not much money in the music. And I was touring before with house concerts where I just turn up in someone's house and play for their friends and pass around a tip jar, and they'd give me food and a place to sleep and money to get to the next town. So I never really saved up enough with the music. But this time I said, I've now discovered these teachings of the Ethereal Society, and they're so amazing. They're so mind-blowing. They're beyond theosophy. They're beyond the Bhagavad Gita. They're beyond any of these mystery schools. So they're so important that I need to promote this. So I'll start a podcast and I'll interview people and I'll write a song about them, because that's what I do. I'm a troubadour, you know. I chat to people. I write songs about all the people I've met, and I pass on the knowledge, you know. I condense it down and I do that. So I'll call it, I was going to call it The Blind Men and the Elephant, which is something they mention in the Vipassana retreats, is that everyone has a bit of the truth and they're all correct. You know, there's the blind men feeling the elephant. So some people say, oh, it is like a tree. No, it is like a rope. So they're all right, you know, but they've just got a different part of the elephant. So I wanted to string everything together, but that wasn't really a catchy title. So I came up with, podcast songs, pod songs, and that was available. I was surprised. So because it's unusual. So nobody's ever, no one's ever done this where they, probably because they're smarter than me, they realize how much work it is to have a conversation and then every week write a song about it. So I did 100 episodes in the first year, which is just coming to an end now. So I did twice a week and fully produced songs, fully with a single. So we went into the studio, we bass, drums, guitar, all different genres, pop, indie, folk, even reggae, rock, all types of music, because I have a production team here. And I reached out to all the guests of the #1 podcast in the world. Because they were very flattered. They said, okay, because no one has ever, even very famous people, they don't offer to write a song about them. It's like someone offering to make a documentary about you, you know. It is a lyrical documentary. So I've got people like, Alan Dershowitz, Lawrence Krauss, all famous. I've spoken to more professors in the last year than I can remember. All these Harvard professors want to talk to me about books they've written just because I'm going to make their words rhyme. You know, it's an unusual thing. So so it's been a tremendous success and better than I could have hoped for. And I also inserted a few guests from the Ethereal Society and some metaphysical guests. But I've now started a new podcast called The Mystic Cast, because these esoteric ideas are, I mean, okay for you, but I'm trying to make pod songs a mainstream podcast, so I'm going to have to not do so many of those in the future, I think, to keep it mainstream.
Okay, to keep it accessible for everyone.
Yeah, because I'm talking about very metaphysical subjects, and it's a lot for some people to take in. You know, it's pushes the boundaries of belief in many people. You know, you can't fill a glass that's already full. So. Great. It's a great concept. I love that you interview the person and then you write a song about them. What does writing music, you talked about doing it during the Vipassana retreat, during that time in silence. Obviously, it's something that's just innate in you. You've been a singer-songwriter for many decades now. And what is that process like for you? What does it help you digest information? And of course, they say that it's a great way of learning. Like you talked about, Ayurveda used to be handed down by word of mouth through poetry. It's also another way for people to learn this ancient wisdom, right? Oh, yes. So, yes, I always interview people who've written these books, and, you know, they've got it on the dust jacket on the back of the book. They've done all the thinking. They've done all the heavy lifting for you. So many of these people I've interviewed, they've written wonderful books, and I just condense it down. You know, I even use the title many times. But there's two ways to write a song, and the answer to the first part of your question is you can write it now as if we were to write a song together now, as what's the title and what should it be about and rhyming, and then but let's think of the chords. And so we're using our conscious mind, and that'll be crap. So it's very important. I channel. So because after this conversation like this, I'm very up. My vata's flowing.
Yeah.
I'm up. It's like I've had a coffee. So, and I can just pull up a guitar and I just strum on one chord or something, and then there's some word that you've been saying will come forward, will flow forward, and then the song will just kind of, if I blank the mind, but if you just relax, and you don't drive, then it naturally flows. And a melody will come, and the song just usually comes in the period directly after the interview, and then. Yeah, then I spend a little time developing. I had then to write the lyrics. You use maybe the conscious mind, because of notes I've made in the interview. But to get that magic melody, like yesterday, or my troubles seem so far away. That that you have to get from the silence, and then you go into the studio, and the other musicians transform it because maybe I'm using the same 3 chords that I've already used on 26 other songs. So, and they will change it around, and they're also channeling. You see when you see a musician on stage or in the studio, when they're flowing, they're in touch with their higher self, and because that's something that the Western psychologists have made a mistake in, that they group our higher self and our lower self into the subconscious mind. So they say we have conscious and subconscious, but there's the subconscious in the Eastern tradition, which is, it's now, as I'm talking to you, it's circulating my blood for me. It's taking a microgram of vitamin K to this blood cell. This is mind, but it's subconscious. And then there's higher conscious, which is your higher self, which is the real you. Your brain, your above your brain. Sorry, your the little voice on the shoulder, the conscience. But your higher self, my higher self, writes these great songs. If you gave me a guitar now and asked me to just play you a song, and I wasn't in the mood, I would be terrible. You have to channel to be a great artist. And that's not something you can. I have to have candles and the right environment has to be, hugelijk, gezellig, has to be a nice atmosphere. I have to be up for it. I can't just turn it on. So
yeah, I understand. Yeah, you have to be in the flow. I hope you're in the flow in a little while as we finish up here to give us a little sample, but I'll leave that up to you if you wish to or not. But before we finish up, Jack, I'd love for you to tell people the podcast sounds amazing, great concept. Where can they find out more about you? You have 2 podcasts now. Please share where they can locate you, and I'll put it all in the show notes as well.
Very, very difficult to find. It's podsongs.com. Instagram podsongs on Facebook, YouTube podsongs everywhere, and then the Mystic Cast is Mystic Cast with Mystic Cast without the middle C, without 2 C's, so it's one word, and they're both available from podsongs.com, and also all the songs are available on Spotify, iTunes, Deezer, wherever you stream your music. You can look for them there as well.
Great. And yeah, I checked you out on YouTube, and I love the video. What was the name of the video with the bathroom?
Clean and Regular.
That was a great video. I was chuckling away to myself watching it. Very good.
Yeah, just to give the listener an idea, I danced with toilet paper while waiting for my girlfriend to finish in the bathroom while singing about her constipation problems.
It was very like an 80s deep emotional video. That's what it reminded me of, something I throw back to the 80s. It was great. And a great way for people to take on this ancient wisdom and to learn about it in a different format, which is fantastic. So Jack, if you're up for it, I'd love for you, if you feel like you're in the mood, I'd love for you to maybe give us a little taste.
Sure.
And whatever you'd like to sing, it would be a real treat for us. as we finish up here, please.
No problem. Let me do a little a cappella of the Dinacharya, the rules of Ayurveda, the daily regime.
Fantastic.
Which is very important to remember. Okay. Waking up before the sun, you have your motions one by one. Clean out the kapha from your head, accumulated while in bed. Clean the teeth and scrape the tongue, gargle with oil, then abhyanga. I get tired of the rules. Nasal drops, salute the sun, wash your body when you're done. Meditate and then hydrate, break your fast very late. Exercise December to May to only half capacity. Well, I get tired of the rules. But every time I go a little crazy, do something I know is really wrong. I wake up in the morning feeling so bad that I go running to the room. Not holding a sneeze or stopping a yawn or activities at dusk or dawn. Only breathing through the nose, never eating when the right one's closed. All 6 tastes in every meal, the ratio for how you feel. Well, I get tired of the rules. Avoiding incompatible foods, mixing with fruit, it precludes. Then you lie on your left side while you digest what's inside, controlling the body, speech and mind, granting gifts and being kind. Well, I get tired of the rules. But every time I go a little crazy, do something I know is really wrong. I wake up in the morning feeling so bad that I go running to the rules.
Wow. That was amazing. What an amazing voice. I love it. I love it. You got everything in there too.
Oh yeah. It actually goes on a bit longer. I cut it short. So.
Oh my goodness. That'd be great to get people to learn that. It would like sink into their mind exactly what the guidelines are, the Dinacharya.
It helps me remember like exercise December to May. I remember that one myself because, you know, you feel this pressure to exercise, go to the gym all year round. But if it's 40 degrees, Ayurveda says, don't go outside, chill out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this ancient wisdom, like you said, we wish we had learned this early days in school, but, you know, I love that you're offering it in this different format. I just think it's fantastic. So thank you, Jack, for everything that you do in the world and for putting out, you know, I'm glad the practitioner thing didn't work out for you. And now you're putting your skills into this. This is what we need from you, right?
Well, likewise to you. Thank you so much for all the work you're doing.
It's a pleasure.
It's great that we have all these skills to share with the world.
Yeah. And I love that everyone has their own unique skill set and the fact that you're bringing them together in this way is amazing. So thank you, Jack, and best wishes to you. And I look forward to sharing your music with all the listeners.
Thank you, Colette. Thanks for having me.
Okay. Take good care of yourself. Bye for now.
Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed that conversation and music from Jack Stafford. And please check out podsongs.com for the Podsongs podcast and the Mystic Cast podcast. And also check out Podsongs by Jack Stafford on YouTube, where you'll find that video that I was laughing about, the clean and regular, where Jack does the toilet paper dance outside the bathroom door. Really funny, great video. So check out the links in the show notes to get over to jackspodsongs.com. And also I'll put the link in the show notes to the upcoming group discounted Digestive Reset Cleanse that I mentioned earlier, and that's starting January 21st, 2022. If you have any questions about the group cleanse, a private cleanse, my online consultations, or my educational programs, and you want to talk to me before you book them, just book a free 15-minute Services Enquiry Call. We'll hop on Zoom together and I'll answer any questions you have. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already subscribed or followed the podcast, please do so the new episodes will automatically download for you. And if you'd like to rate and review the podcast, I would really appreciate that. Until next time, take good care of yourself, be well, and bye for now. Slán go fóill.